I like to overlay my tones very gently, very gradually building up, so that I don't feel that I've gone too far too quickly. So I'll go overlay a bit there and take a few more strokes out there. That's still damp, so I don't want to do too much on that. There's a bit of tone under there, so I'll put a bit of tone in there. I think I'll have a bit of shadow under there as well. Very quick strokes, directional ones. I'm looking as I come to the top here at what I call a shadow recess shape. It's a shape where we have some shadow within some of these hairs, so I want to get the interest of that because it weaves across the head a little, and it's quite interesting. And the little indentation there, another one up there. I'm now coming to where I'd like to put some darker areas to get some contrast, so I'll darken that. I'll probably darken this for another coat and then let it dry while I'm doing another area. So I'm just taking that in a bit darker around there. Again, changing the direction of the application. And it's quite dark at the top bit there. There's another little ridge coming down there. I look for all the little idiosyncrasies on this. And there's another little bit of dark under here. Get the dark recess there. Then this curves round and another bit of dark in there. Now normally I'd like to go over to that one, but I don't want to smudge it, so I'm going to look back down here, and probably the larger brush now would be wise. And mix up this French ultramarine so that it doesn't sink to the base, and start filling in some of the darker bits over here. There's quite a dark bit here actually, where that light hair comes across it. And then we're getting underneath the cheek again is quite dark. And then as I come out, I do the curved strokes so that I'm looking at some of the shapes of the hair falling over the shoulder. And I must be careful not to go behind that lower lip because I want that to show up. And I'm looking at where the shoulder meets the body here, and it's a bit darker there, and we cut up in to allow some of the light to come through. Now donkeys of course have this stripe down their back, so I'll do that at the moment. Even though I've got a larger brush, because they're such a beautiful shape, I can actually use the tip of this brush. So I'm working on my toes now, and just with the tip of the brush I'm following this line across the back, and it's very undulating because of this long coat and the way it falls. So I get an interesting zigzag on-off pressure line across his back, and we've got a little bit of that cross coming down here. It's not as dark as I'm doing it, so what I'm going to do is dry the brush off and just remove it a little. I've put it in place and I just remove it a little with a dry brush. And now start filling in the shoulder a bit. There's a little bit more here. Very loose strokes. It's long hair, so you don't want them to be short strokes on an animal like this. And all the time contoured, following the form. Now I'm going to come into this bit which is still wet and make it go out to join the rest. And again, I don't want to smudge, so I'll do that a little bit later. I won't go to the smaller brush because this one will still give me the point I need for the ears. So I'm just going over these again, darkening up. When you do the next coat each time, you don't need to follow exactly where you've been before. So I'm going quite loosely. It's much more interesting to see some of the undercoat showing through. With watercolour, it's lovely to see these different effects, and you don't want to lose them by going completely over what you've already done. So all I'm doing is intensifying parts of the dark areas, and I'm feeling how I go into that ear, twists and turns with the brush to get the interest of those strokes. And a few little strokes out there, and I want to darken there. So I'm going to go dark behind this space and up, following some of the direction of this hair, cutting in again dark behind here, and I might even just, while I'm here, do a little bit more to the mane, go over this bit again to increase the intensity up there before I travel down. And we've got some really rich darks in here, so I'll put those in. They really do need to dry now, so that my next coat will go over them dry on dry. I'm going to increase the intensity of the eye, just take it a bit darker up here. And now I will have a smaller brush again for the nostril, because I don't want to make the mistake of going over an area. Just going to take it in dark there, and notice I'm not doing the whole shape, just a little bit to get the indentation, and then down onto this lower lip, which is just a press stroke and lift. It's almost a leaf shape stroke, just press and lift. And I want some darker under here, so I just follow the form of that nose and get the shape, a little bit of water and diffuse and soften it down. And then underneath this again, so that we're seeing these coming over. And we've got a little bit of a shape here down this side, which defines that nostril and lower muzzle area. So I'm coming down towards the nostril, and this lower muzzle is helped by the tone under here. And a nice dark in there. Increase the dark tone there. Back up to this bit because I don't want to leave that out with the dark. It's following the form again round. And increase the intensity down here. Coming down there. And there's an indentation there above the eye. I'll finish some of those off and get some uneven strokes down the back there. Taking the larger brush again, which is the large worker, I'm going to start putting in some of the body hair. Looking at the form, the way the belly will swell out there, there's the light above the top there, so I'm just pulling it out and noticing how the slant of the shoulder dictates that I should go in this direction out to the side, and at the top I'm just going to lighten it up to indicate the back and the way it undulates as it goes along. I'm not going to do too much detail here because if I did it would detract from the actual head, so all I'm doing is placing the body, just doing a very light area to say that the body goes out behind, and a little bit of the lighter tone over here just to get him filled in a bit so that he stands out against the paper. And on the shoulder here. With hair like this, the application can be very loose. You're trying to get the effect of the hair rather than going into too much detail. So now I'm just going over the top with directionally placed strokes using a much lighter colour. Very much a loose crisscross application there. I'll do a little bit of colour down the ear as well, and a little bit more over this side. So that's a little bit of tone down there and following the form of the cheek, and dark in here. Thinking about how this shoots out. He's got a fluffy bit coming out there and a little bit of dark shadow in there. There's a lot happening there. And up here a little bit more dark. Increase the depth of that, and then some twists and turns down the centre area again, and tuck in under here, a little bit of tone in there. And now I'm going to come back from these where I've already allowed myself these shapes, a little bit of dark under there again, a bit more dark there. Really, it's a case now of just increasing your tonal areas and trying to get the interest of these hair directions. Going to put a bit more shadow down the base here, pushing the brush and following the form, and then just softening the edges, a little bit under there, and a tiny bit of light red to put some pink on. A little bit dark, that's it. Just a bit of pink on here and in here. And I might just watch that dry a bit and drop in a little bit before it's dry. And then we're looking at these dark shapes here. See if I can get a bit of blending there, a bit more there, and it comes around into the darkness of the nostril there and down again to this darker shape here. I could actually build and build with these darks until I got it to the intensity I needed for that whole portrait. And think of following the form round. I'm just going to finish off by putting a few more tones up here for this area that comes down the front of his face. And I'm coming out like a little star from there where it comes out in all different directions. If you wanted your donkey to be darker, you can just carry on adding the tone, but some of them are quite pale in colour. It's up to the actual animal that you're depicting. But you can see how I just overlay and overlay until I get the intensity of tone I want. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and you can see how to do long hair on any of the animals that have long hair that you paint.
Now available to buy. Try these techniques at home whenever you wish. The extended DVD of today's workshop is now available from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.